Throughout the history of sacred texts and ancient traditions, there are names that echo through time: prophets, kings, warriors, and mystics. But among them, one figure stands apart. A figure mentioned only briefly in canonical scripture, yet whose legacy unfolds across forgotten manuscripts, contested theology, mystical visions, and apocalyptic prophecy. A figure said to have walked so closely with the divine that he did not die, but was taken. Today, we ask a question that countless readers, scholars, believers, skeptics, and mystics have pondered. Who is Enoch? Was he merely a righteous patriarch from the early chapters of Genesis, a visionary taken into the heavens, the first great mystic of Abrahamic tradition, a prophet whose writings were lost or intentionally removed, a mortal who transformed into an angelic being, or perhaps a symbol of humanity's ancient yearning to pierce the veil between earth and the divine? This figure, shadowed by antiquity, yet illuminated by devotion and curiosity, has captivated civilizations for millennia. Today, we are not simply telling a story. We are stepping into one of the most enigmatic mysteries in religious and mythological thought. So take a moment. Set aside everything you think you already know. Open your mind to ancient cosmology, forgotten traditions, and the thin spaces where heaven and earth are said to touch. Because the journey of Enoch begins before the flood, before Abraham, before Moses ends in a world of giants, angels, watchers, and primordial humanity. And to understand him, we must travel not only through widely recognized scripture, but also through exiled texts, ancient Jewish mysticism, early Christian thought, and even echoes found in Islamic tradition. Yet, if we're being honest, Enoch is also a mystery, a puzzle. His story is fragmented across cultures and centuries, which makes what we're about to explore not just informative, but a genuine investigation. Now, before we embark, let's set the tone. In today's video, we are going to do three things. First, we will travel back to the earliest biblical mention of Enoch, just a few verses tucked away in Genesis. They seem simple at first glance, but those lines have fueled thousands of years of speculation and spiritual imagination. Second, we will step beyond the canonical texts and examine ancient writings attributed to him, especially the Book of Enoch, a powerful, poetic, and sometimes unsettling vision of angels, cosmic judgment, heavenly secrets, and the fate of humanity. And third, we will follow his legacy, how rabbis, early Christians, church fathers, Sufi mystics, medieval scholars, and modern seekers have interpreted him. Because Enoch is not merely a character. He is a symbol, a bridge between our earthly existence and the vast mystery beyond it. This is not just theology. This is ancient psychology, mythology, spirituality, history, and belief converging. And here's something fascinating. Enoch's name might be ancient, but the questions surrounding him are strikingly modern. Is revelation reserved for a chosen few, or is it accessible to those who walk a certain path? Can human destiny transcend mortality? Where does knowledge come from, heaven or earth? What does it mean to live a life so in tune with the divine that death itself is bypassed? Curiosity about Enoch touches something primal, the human longing for connection with the eternal. And whether you're here from a place of personal faith, academic curiosity, mythological interest, or simple fascination with ancient mysteries, You're in the right place. So, before we go any further, consider this. If a man thousands of years ago claimed to receive visions of heaven, angelic hierarchies, cosmic secrets, and the divine plan, would you believe him? Would ancient people preserve his legacy because they witnessed something extraordinary? Or could the story of Enoch be an ancient metaphor, a narrative meant to reveal deeper spiritual truths rather than literal history? There is no single agreed-upon answer, and that, in many ways, is what makes Enoch so compelling. Even within religious communities, opinions vary. Some regard his writings as sacred revelation. Others view them as apocryphal wisdom. Some dismiss them as pseudepigraphal mysticism, interesting, but not divinely inspired. And some see in Enoch one of the earliest archetypes of the human spiritual seeker, someone reaching upward toward transcendent knowledge long before prophets formalized scripture. But regardless of interpretation, one thing is certain: the story of Enoch refuses to be forgotten. To this day, scholars debate his identity. Theologians wrestle with his significance. Mystics reference him in meditative tradition. Popular culture revives his mythology in films, novels, and speculative thought. Whenever a name echoes across millennia through scrolls, cathedrals, temples, and whispered traditions, something about it matters. So sit comfortably, take a breath, and prepare to explore one of the oldest spiritual enigmas in human consciousness. This, right now, is the beginning of a journey not just into scripture, but into mystery, memory, and myth. Let us begin. **** Genesis, the early world and the first glimpse of Enoch. To understand Enoch, we begin at the beginning, not metaphorically, but literally, in the earliest genealogical passages of Genesis. These lines may be brief, but they are our canonical anchor, the foundation from which centuries of interpretation emerge. Most people reading Genesis encounter long lists of names, a rhythm of births, years, and deaths. But then, amid the steady cadence of "and he died," something interrupts the pattern. Something extraordinary. We read, "Enoch walked with God. Then he was no more because God took him." This statement, simple as it is, detonates like a quiet revelation. Others lived, had children, and died. But Enoch, he walked with God, and instead of death, there is removal, ascension, translation, assumption, however one names it. No explanation, no elaboration, just mystery. This absence of detail is precisely what creates fascination. Scripture often speaks in layers, sometimes explicit, sometimes cryptic. With Enoch, it offers a doorway, but does not tell us what lies beyond it. Instead, we are left with questions. What does it mean to walk with God? What manner of life brings such intimacy with the divine? What does it signify that he did not die, but was taken? The early world of Genesis gives the impression of an earth closer to heaven, a cosmos where divine presence brushes against human experience regularly. We see angels, mysterious visitors, voices from above, and primordial covenants. It is a time before separation, before exile from the garden fully calcifies humanity's spiritual distance. Within that setting, Enoch stands as a human bridge, not a prophet like Moses with commandments, not a king like David or Solomon, not a patriarch like Abraham with a nation flowing from his lineage. Instead, Enoch embodies something more intimate, direct communion. Imagine for a moment a world before organized religion, before temple structures, before sacred law was codified. Spirituality is not institutional, it is experiential. It occurs in open landscapes, under vast skies, in the quietude of a world unscarred by empires or writing systems. Enoch walks, not in ritual obligation, not in sacrifice or priesthood, but in a relationship. This alone sets him apart, and yet Genesis gives us so little. Most individuals mentioned briefly in Scripture fade into anonymity. Enoch does not. Instead, he becomes a canvas, a seed of intrigue that later traditions cultivate into a towering figure. Narrator, soft curiosity. But before we explore those later developments, we must linger here in the early chapters and consider the context. These genealogies are not mundane census records. They function as mythic memory, a structured way of locating humanity and sacred history. They trace descent from Adam, marking the progression of life before the flood, an era described elsewhere as one of increasing corruption, supernatural encounters, and growing tension between the heavenly and the earthly dot in that shadowed world. The brief life sketch of Enoch stands in stark contrast to the violence and hubris that ultimately bring about destruction. Later Jewish commentary would portray him as a righteous remnant in a declining age, one whose spiritual vision pierced the fog of a world losing sight of goodness. Ancient interpreters asked, why was he taken? To spare him from coming judgment? To reward his righteousness? Or because his earthly mission had been completed? Each hypothesis reflects theological imagination at work asking life's perennial question. What does it mean to be righteous? Not simply moral, but aligned with divine purpose? Asterisk, we also notice something subtle. Enoch's lifespan is comparatively short in a genealogy filled with centuries-long lifespans. Mosper flood patriarchs live 800 or 900 years. Enoch lives 365, symbolically potent. That number corresponds to the solar year, linking him to cosmic order. Was this coincidence, or an intentional symbolic detail hinting at his connection to heavenly cycles? In ancient thought, numbers often carry theological or cosmological meaning. 365, the circle of time, the rhythm of seasons, the cosmic clock. Enoch is not merely a person. He becomes associated with sacred chronology, celestial order, and divine mysteries. Later traditions will emphasize this connection dramatically, portraying Enoch as a scribe of heaven, one who learns the secrets of the cosmos and writes them down. But even here, in Genesis, we sense a thematic undercurrent. Enoch is a figure not confined to earthbound existence. Asterisk, asterisk. And then there is the phrase, he was not. A haunting and beautiful expression. Sudden absence, mysterious departure. Not through death, but transformation. Ancient readers did not gloss over such lines. They pondered. They speculated. They asked whether Enoch crossed a threshold, reserved for the rarest of souls. In a world where death reigns as the universal fate, Enoch breaks the pattern. To not die is not merely a narrative twist, it is a theological statement. It implies divine favor of the highest order, perhaps even a unique destiny. Why does this matter? Because stories shape worldview. If one human can transcend mortality, then the barrier between human and divine is not absolute. It suggests possibility of closeness, transcendence, and elevation. Enoch becomes a prototype for spiritual aspiration, but mystery invites storytelling. Silence invites expansion, and soon those scant verses become the seedbed for elaborate visionary literature. Before we move forward, let's reflect. When a sacred text gives only a hint, is it protecting a secret? Is it inviting seekers to dig deeper? Or is the brevity itself the point preserving awe rather than explaining mystery? We don't answer those yet. Instead, we carry them forward, because understanding Enoch requires more than reading lines. It requires engaging mystery as an active force. Asterisk, asterisk, the rise of Enochian tradition and the birth of apocalyptic vision, asterisk. We have stood within the quiet, enigmatic lines of Genesis, a world where Enoch's presence is brief yet profound. Now we step into a very different landscape, the world of Jewish apocalyptic tradition. The gulf between these worlds is vast, not in time alone, but in imagination. Here the silence surrounding Enoch and Scripture becomes fertile ground, and the seed of mystery grows into an expansive cosmological narrative. Centuries after Genesis was composed, Jewish life faced pressures that reshaped religious consciousness. Empires rose, Babylonian, Persian, and Greek. The cultural encounter intensified. Oppression, exile, and foreign influence created spiritual questions. How does one remain faithful when the world is collapsing or changing beyond recognition? Where is divine justice when the wicked seem to prosper? How do humans understand heavenly realities in a world where earthly certainty erodes? In that crucible, apocalyptic literature emerged visionary, symbolic, and cosmic in scope, and Enoch, surprisingly, became its central figure. Asterisk, asterisk, at some point between the 3rd and 1st centuries BCE, scribes and mystics began composing texts attributed to Enoch. Most famous among them is the Book of Enoch, also called 1 Enoch, a collection of visionary writings, revelations, heavenly journeys, and prophetic warnings. To these ancient authors, Enoch was not merely an ancestor. He was a vessel of divine knowledge, a heavenly messenger, the human who crossed the threshold and returned transformed. In this literature, Enoch is not silent. He speaks, he questions, he ascends, he learns, and he writes, becoming a celestial scribe, recording the secrets of the universe. Imagine the scene as these writers envisioned it. A righteous man, living before the flood, is taken into the heavens. Not briefly, not metaphorically, but through a startling, transformative ascent. He is shown the machinery of creation. He observes the movements of stars, the ordering of time, the dwelling of angels, the fate of spirits, and the places where souls await judgment. He hears cosmic law and watches divine justice unfold on scales unimaginable to mortal minds. This is a universe structured by moral and cosmic order, one hidden yet real. And Enoch is granted a vision of it. Asterisk, asterisk, in 1 Enoch, we encounter several thematic currents. The Watchers, angelic beings who descend to earth, transgress their heavenly boundaries, and corrupt humanity. Nephilim and giants, hybrid beings born of divine human transgression, bringers of violence and chaos. Heavenly courts and judgment visions of divine authority, weighing the deeds of angels and humans. Cosmic geography, mountains of God, rivers of fire, star halls, and spiritual realms Astronomical revelation calendars, celestial cycles, and cosmic laws aligned with righteousness. Moral exhortation, warnings of judgment, and promises of vindication for the righteous. This is not merely storytelling. It is theology in visionary form. It interprets the earliest chapters of Genesis, filling in narratives barely hinted at. Where Scripture offered a few lines about the sons of God and the Nephilim, Enochian literature expands, explaining cosmic rebellion and divine discipline. Why did this matter to ancient audiences? Because apocalyptic writing was not escapist fantasy. It was a response to injustice. When earthly power seemed unaccountable, apocalyptic vision asserted that divine justice reigns beyond human sight. When people suffered under empire, texts like Enoch proclaimed that earthly rulers were not ultimate. Enoch himself became a symbol of this perspective, a righteous witness elevated beyond corruption, entrusted with secrets that comfort the oppressed and challenge the wicked. But let's pause not to romanticize, but to understand the psychology and spirituality at play. Ancient people lived in a world full of mystery, vulnerability, and wonder. Storms, stars, disease, and war. These were not simply physical events. They carried cosmic weight. Their worldview did not separate natural from supernatural the way modern thought often does. In that framework, mystics sought meaning in the cosmos, and figures like Enoch represented the possibility of revelation. His ascent is not simply mystical aspiration, it is epistemic transformation. To know what angels know, to see what divine beings see, is to transcend the limits of human experience. And in Enoch's story, access to such knowledge is not arbitrary. It is granted through righteousness, devotion, and alignment with divine will. This idea struck ancient imaginations deeply. Divine knowledge is possible, but it is not seized, it is bestowed. The wisdom seeker must first become more enlightened and spiritually receptive. Enoch, therefore, embodies not only revelation, but also preparation, the inner work that precedes vision. Yet. There is another layer. Enochian literature does not merely celebrate visionary knowledge. It warns against misused divine secrets. The watchers in these texts also gain forbidden knowledge, but they misuse it, corrupting humanity. The distinction between sacred revelation and dangerous transgression is subtle but essential. Thus, Enoch stands not only as the one who ascends, but also as the one who ascends rightly, who embodies discernment. Visions can exalt or corrupt. Knowledge can heal or destroy. In an age fascinated by knowledge, scientific, mystical, political, this ancient insight remains strikingly relevant. The world of Enochian tradition is dynamic. It engages heavenly rebellion, earthly disorder, divine sovereignty, and human destiny. It reframes the primordial world not as distant myth, but as moral drama, a stage where cosmic forces and human actions intertwine. And at its center stands a human who becomes more than human. Not because of power, not because of conquest, but because of intimacy with the divine. He does not seek dominion, but understanding. He does not seize a revelation, he receives it. He does not escape mortality through force, but through alignment. In a world where strength often defines greatness, Enoch's story suggests a different paradigm: greatness through communion, transcendence through faithfulness. heavenly transformation, Enoch as Metatron, and mystical legacy asterisk. The apocalyptic Enoch is already extraordinary visionary, ascended and entrusted with cosmic knowledge. But in later Jewish mystical tradition, his story evolves even further. Here, Enoch does not simply visit the heavenly realms. He is transformed by them. He crosses the boundary between mortal and divine roles, becoming something unique in the spiritual imagination of late antiquity. This phase of Enoch's identity arises most vividly in later Jewish mystical texts, especially within the Hekhalot and Merkabah literature writings that explore heavenly palaces, angelic hierarchies, and ecstatic ascent. In these works, Enoch becomes Metatron, an exalted celestial being. This metamorphosis marks a dramatic theological development, a human elevated not only to heaven, but also to angelic status. What does this transformation signify? To ancient mystics, it represented a paradigm of spiritual destiny, the idea that humanity is not fixed in nature, but capable of elevation. To be clear, this was not casual superstition. It was intense theological speculation rooted in scriptural silence and mystical yearning. Asterisk, asterisk. The name Metatron carries meanings debated for centuries. Some propose it derives from metater, a guide or messenger. Others from metatronos, meaning near the throne. Whatever its linguistic origin, its symbolic meaning is unmistakable. Proximity to divine authority. In these traditions, Enoch is enthroned, glorified, granted robes of light, and given a heavenly office. He becomes the celestial scribe, the keeper of divine records, guardian of sacred knowledge and cosmic order. Later texts describe him as the Prince of the Presence, an intercessor figure standing near the divine throne. Yet, even within mystical literature, this elevation is not about ego. It is about transformation through surrender, purification, and awe. Enoch does not claim divinity. He becomes a servant of heaven, a vessel of divine purpose. This raises profound questions. Can humanity transcend its nature? Can spiritual devotion elevate one beyond mortal limits? Is the boundary between human and angelic rigid or permeable through grace? For ancient mystics, Enoch answered these not theoretically, but narratively. He became an archetype, the first human mystic to enter heavenly halls and return transformed. Yet, this transformation was not merely fantastical. It functioned as a mystical teaching tool. If Enoch could ascend, then those who pursue righteousness, contemplation, and spiritual discipline might glimpse divine reality too, not necessarily through literal ascent, but through inner transformation. This is where Enoch's story intersects with mystical psychology. Ascent becomes metaphor and practice, contemplation rising through stages, prayer lifting consciousness, and purity preparing the soul for higher perception. In this frame, Enoch's journey becomes the prototype for the mystic's path. Asterisk, but Enoch's exaltation sparked debate. Jewish tradition fiercely protects the uniqueness of God. The idea of a human exalted so near divine status could seem troubling, and indeed, some rabbinic texts emphasize Enoch's humility or warn against excessive speculation. Still, the idea endured not as doctrine for the masses, but as mystical insight for seekers. Meanwhile, in Christianity, Enoch is revered yet interpreted differently. The New Testament mentions him as a model of faith and righteousness. Early Christian thinkers debated his writings. Some embraced them, others excluded them from canon. Yet, Christian mystics also saw in Enoch a path, the ascent of the soul, not by personal power, but by grace. Islamic tradition, too, preserves a reflection. Enoch is often identified with Idris, a prophet described as elevated and granted a high place. His spiritual stature echoes the same theme: closeness to God through righteousness and knowledge. Across traditions, the pattern remains consistent. Enoch symbolizes ascension physical, spiritual, intellectual, or mystical. Now, let's ask a critical question. Why did Enoch, of all figures, become this focal point? Part of the answer lies in the silence of Genesis. Sparse description invites interpretation, but part also lies in his symbolic position in sacred history, situated at the dawn of humanity, before covenant and law, before nation and institution. He represents pure, primal intimacy with the divine, unmediated by ritual or priesthood. In mystical thought, this matters profoundly. It suggests that access to God is not a monopoly of an institution, but a possibility of the soul. Enoch becomes the exemplar of direct encounter, a reminder that holiness predates structure, that transcendence is not bound to temple or lineage. Another reason is narrative function. In a cosmos filled with angels, watchers, judgment, and celestial law, a human mediator becomes necessary, one who can understand both worlds. Enoch is that bridge. And then there is the psychological dimension. Humans aspire upward, inward, beyond. The dream of transformation, of transcendence, is ancient and universal. Enoch embodies that aspiration narrative, not through conquest, but through purity, not through power, but through devotion, not through self-exaltation, but through divine invitation. Let us reflect on the implications of his transformation. Enoch does not abolish humanity, he elevates it. He does not replace angels, he joins them in service. He does not claim ultimate authority, he stands near it, witnessing, recording, and honoring. This is not a hubris narrative. It is a reverence narrative. The mystical elevation of Enoch serves not to glorify the self, but to glorify the divine capacity to transform. And so, across Jewish mysticism, Christian contemplation, and Islamic reverence, Enoch stands as the figure who walked with God, was taken without death, became witness to heavenly realms, received cosmic wisdom, and, in mystical tradition, was transformed into Metatron, servant of the throne. His story bridges scripture and vision, theology and mysticism, and history and myth. It challenges and inspires. It reminds us that spiritual ascent, whatever form it takes, is possible through fidelity to the divine, humility, and openness to revelation. Enoch's voice speaks from ancient pages and mystical visions with a singular message. There is more than what earthly eyes perceive. There are realms of meaning, order, and glory beyond the visible. And the path toward them begins not with ambition, but with walking faithfully, quietly, sincerely with the divine. Enoch's enduring influence, modern fascination, and closing reflection. We have traveled from the sparse verses of Genesis to the vast cosmos of apocalyptic vision, and from mystical transformation to theological debate. Now we turn toward the world we inhabit, an age of science, skepticism, curiosity, and renewed spiritual searching, and ask a final question. Why does Enoch still captivate us today? It would be easy to say that Enoch's endurance is merely historical, that his story persists because ancient communities preserved it. But that answer is incomplete. Enoch persists because he speaks to something perennial in the human psyche. His narrative touches themes modern life has not outgrown, but intensified in a world overflowing with information, yet starved for meaning. Enoch represents knowledge that transcends data wisdom rooted in revelation, morality, and humility. In an era obsessed with technological immortality, he symbolizes spiritual transcendence that is not engineered but bestowed. In a time when institutions are questioned, he embodies direct encounter with the sacred, unmediated by hierarchy or structure. Whether one treats his story as history, symbol, myth, or a theological vision, the archetype remains powerful. Look around our cultural landscape, and you'll find Enoch resurfacing in countless forms. Scholars analyzing ancient Jewish mysticism and Second Temple texts, theologians revisiting apocryphal traditions and early Christian interpretation, Islamic teachers discussing Idris and exalted prophecy, novelists and film writers mining apocalyptic imagery, mystics and contemplatives exploring spiritual ascent, researchers investigating ancient cosmology and religious imagination, modern readers fascinated by angelology, forbidden knowledge, or divine mysteries, even emerging scientific futurism with discussions around consciousness, transcendence, and transformation echoes themes that ancient mystics attributed to Enoch's journey. The language has changed. The longing has not. But fascination alone cannot explain durability. Enoch resonates because his story avoids simplistic answers. He is neither a mere myth nor a neatly defined theologian. He stands in ambiguity, and that ambiguity invites inquiry, humility, and wonder. People return to Enoch because he does not tell us everything. He gestures to the horizon and disappears into the mystery. His ascent is not mapped, but hinted. His encounter is not fully described, but suggested. This quality gives his story depth modern culture rarely grants in a world that often values certainty over curiosity. Enoch invites us back into awe. Yet we must acknowledge something honestly. Enoch is not universally accepted as scripture. Traditions diverge. The canonical status of his writings varies. Scholars debate his origins. Mystics interpret him differently, and this complexity is part of his gravity. He lives in the borderlands of sacred memory, not dismissed, not dogmatized, but explored. That liminal space is fertile ground for spiritual imagination. Figures in the margins often serve as catalysts for deeper engagement. Enoch is one such catalyst. He does not demand belief, he provokes contemplation. Let us step back and frame this story in human terms. Imagine living in a time of immense uncertainty, empires rising, cultures colliding, spiritual identity challenged. You look to your ancestral texts and find a name, barely mentioned yet extraordinary. You ask, who Wash? What did he see? What did he know? And suddenly you glimpse the possibility that the divine is not confined to one place or one moment. That revelation did not end, but continues. that the cosmos is far more than visible reality. That righteousness opens doors no power can force. In that moment, Enoch becomes not just a figure of the past, but a companion in the search for meaning. Now, consider the modern seeker surrounded by technology, but longing for transcendence, connected lovely, yet yearning inwardly, armed with scientific frameworks, yet intuitively aware that not all truths are empirical. For such a person, Enoch's narrative feels strangely contemporary. His story whispers, there are mysteries science has not catalogued. There are dimensions of existence not fully mapped. Wisdom is not merely knowledge, it is relationship, transformation, surrender, and awakening. And yet, Enoch is not escapism. His writings confront injustice, pride, corruption, and moral decay. He warns of judgment not as a fear tactic, but as cosmic balance, the idea that moral reality is woven into the fabric of the universe. His teachings insist that righteousness matters not abstractly, but concretely. This is essential. In Enoch's world, the cosmos is moral. Divine order is real. No act is invisible. No injustice forgotten, and no goodness wasted. Whether one interprets this literally or symbolically, it provides a framework of meaning, a cosmos where ethics and destiny intertwine. Enoch walked with God. He did not demand greatness. He did not build an empire. He did not command armies. He simply aligned himself so profoundly with the divine that death could not claim him. And that idea, quiet, humble, transcendent, endures. So who is Enoch? He is the patriarch who vanished into divine presence, the visionary who explored the heavens, the scribe who recorded eternal truths, the mystic elevated by grace, the symbol of humanity reaching upward, the reminder that the veil between earth and heaven is thinner than we assume. Each tradition sees a facet. None captures the whole. And perhaps that is exactly as it should be. Enoch is not a puzzle to solve, but a mystery to contemplate. His story encourages inquiry while preserving reverence. It invites spiritual imagination without collapsing into fantasy. It points to transcendent possibility without arrogance. Whether you view Enoch as a historical prophet, mystical archetype, apocalyptic visionary, exalted angelic figure, or symbolic embodiment of spiritual ascent, one truth remains constant. He represents the human longing to walk with the divine, not as mythic escape, but as lived reality. And that longing, ancient and enduring, is perhaps what binds us all across time, culture, belief, and doubt. So, the next time you look at the stars or hear an ancient story, or feel the quiet pull of something greater than yourself, remember the one walked and was taken. Remember Enoch the seeker, the witness, the transformed, because his mystery is not only his. In some quiet way, it is ours. Thank you for joining this journey. If you found wonder in this story, stay curious, seek deeply, and walk with intention. The mystery continues, and so does the search.